Welcome to episode 357, the Steve Hines edition of the DFO Rundown presented by Bet365. Download the app today and use the promo code NATION to get in on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Jason Gregor as we welcome in Frank Seravalli. Frankie, how you doing?
Welcome back. I just want all the listeners to know before we started our show today, Jason Gregor, fresh off 10 days in Hawaii, is complaining about the 50-degree temperature change. I don't care if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit since he's gotten back to Edmonton.
It's probably more in Fahrenheit, I would guess. But
yeah, but I'm playing the world's tiniest violin for you.
But it was just saying it was tough. It was rough.
Oh, yeah, that's tough.
But I will say the big island in Hawaii, I've never been before. I love Maui and I've been to Oahu. I think the Big Island's my favorite. There's so much to do. There's like 11 different climate zones. It's freakish. They've got like snow-covered mountains. Then you've got like a rainforest tropical area, which is unbelievable with waterfalls. Then like when you land, though, it's like you're on the moon, right? There's a bunch of just black lava rock everywhere. And then there's arid desert. It's unreal. There's so much to see and do and activities. And then the weather's
So you did all 10 days on the Big Island?
Yeah. 11. Yeah. All 11 on the Big Island.
Even better. 11 days.
Yeah, Waikoloa. Stayed
dude,
there.
You figured it out. I think you got the secret to this whole schedule. Like you did 11 days in Hawaii. Now you come back, and then it's the Four Nations face-off break.
I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? So, well, the Four Nations, I'm looking forward to. It's not really a break. I'm still working, but yeah, it's less hectic for sure for me. So, it's Frank. Sometimes you know what? Got to strategize.
Chess, not checkers, buddy.
Exactly. So no, it was great. And it's funny because we flew out on Friday, the 24th of January. And when I'm on holidays, no joke, like when I left the airport, I turned my phone off. I turn it on twice the whole time because otherwise you're not on holidays.
And meanwhile, Mikko Rantanen's been traded. All these things happened.
Frank
Seravalli.
Yeah. Well, the Friday night, so we're out for dinner.
Miller traded. Oh man.
And I walk into the restaurant and my son comes in after me and he's like 11. And so of course, any TV that he sees anywhere, he's like scanning it. There was like basketball highlights or something. And then on the ticker, he sits down. He's like, Dad, Rantanen got traded. And I'm kind of like, I'm sitting there, I'm just having a beer. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, Rantanen got traded. He goes, don't you have to care about that? I said, not now, I don't. And but of course I asked him who, and he didn't know, he didn't see. He goes, well, I said, we got to go back and find out. And we were guessing, we were making bets. And I was like, I told him, I said, son, if it's not Carolina, that's a big fail because I've been talking about it for like how many years. They need to get a legit star, and they did. Now, early returns,
living like it's 1996 on vacation, no cell phone, and he's like, hey, go back over to the TV and scan that and find out what happened.
Buddy, he loves it. You know how kids are. They like you give them something. But
I'm laughing at you. Like what an unbelievable privilege that is to just be like, yeah, I don't care what happens. I'm putting my phone away.
Yeah.
Do you realize that I cannot live like that? Like meaning like my job, I cannot live like that.
Well, you could. You just choose your holidays. Go in August. Shut your phone off.
No. That's not even how it works then.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're on holiday and Holloway and Broberg get offer sheeted. NHL Insider. What are you just asleep at the wheel? That's not how it works. You don't get doesn't work.
Everybody you're on holidays.
No. That's not
live to work. Don't work to live. There you go.
I mean, look, I wish I could subscribe to that theory. It would be amazing. Like if I could go on holiday and turn my phone off, that would be a different person, but I can't.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's funny though, the Rantanen trade, I was in Lake Placid at my kids' youth hockey tournament. I'm getting crushed by my wife. I'm sick, first off. And also, then I break this Rantanen trade and I'm in the room the rest of the night calling people, doing videos, and she says, hey, just want to let you know, you're a 0. 0. That's how much you've been present here. You're a 0. I'm coaching, I'm sick, I'm breaking a trade, and I'm a 0.
It's a tough one. Well, the trade, it's 2 weeks now, and I know it's super early, but when you look at, like, Frank, how confident are you that he re-signs in Carolina?
Mildly confident. I mean, I don't want to say over the top confident, but here's the thing that I know about the trade. they went into it eyes wide open, knowing that A, they have a ton of cap space. This was before the salary cap figures were announced. And B, they kind of knew what it was going to take to sign Mikko Rantanen. Like they had obviously, I'd been reporting that his camp had been asking for $14 million a year. They knew that it would be within that range. And they also got a sense, I guess, from having, Finns on their roster in Sebastian Aho that he's close with, that if Mikko Rantanen were to somehow make it to market in the summer, that they would be one of the teams on the short list to be able to land him. So I think they're pretty confident. My understanding is there have been initial discussions and they really wanted to let him get his feet wet, but they're interested in engaging at any time when the Rantanen camp's ready.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how much pressure there is on Rantanen now that he's away from McKinnon. You got to produce something. And, if his point production goes down significantly, how does that impact his contract? I'm just curious about it. I think there's a little risk on both sides here, right? And because now Rantanen's away from McKinnon.
But his ice time is way down.
Well, hey, dude.
The usage is definitely different in Carolina. So it's 5 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. His ice time is 19:28. In Colorado, it was 22:30 this season, which means he's down 3 minutes and 2 seconds in the 5 games that he's played.
Yeah. So it's going to be different. There's no question about it. They don't, the Colorado runs their top guys a lot, and understandably so. So I'm just.
Here's the other part of this, though, and I'm not saying they're necessarily, they're definitely related, but since then, related, unrelated, the Colorado Avalanche can't score. 15 goals in 6 games since the trade. Cale Makar, 5 points. Nathan McKinnon, 5 points.
He has 5. Natchez has 5. But for Nate McKinnon, that's in 6 games, less than a point a game, right? That's
and 3 of Makar's 5 points came in 1 game. So he's got 1 point or 2 points in his other 4. So, not great. 2 points.
Oh, yeah. No, 5. So, what did you make of Rantanen saying afterwards that he would have taken less to sign?
I don't know really what to make of that, because I feel like anyone could say that at any point in time. I think the bigger question is, since we now know the salary cap numbers concretely, meaning there's an agreement in place between the NHL and NHLPA, would the Colorado Avalanche have played this differently?
Well, they must have had an inkling of that.
Nope.
Like
they had an idea, but I think they thought that the numbers that were being talked about, these massive increases that we're seeing, I can just tell you, I talked to a handful of GMs after the numbers were released, and their jaws were on the floor. They knew increases were coming. They did not have their calculators out. They did not think it was this big. And they're shocked at not just the space that they're going to have. Some of them are shocked at the spending that they're going to be forced to do just to get to the floor.
Well, yeah, the floor numbers are unreal. That in 3 years from now,
it's basically what the cap is now.
The ceiling is. Yeah, that to me is craziness. So obviously the league's doing very well financially coming out of COVID, and that's good. And I still look at Rantanen's numbers, and when you see Leon Draisaitl, who now leads the league in points, he leads the league in goals. Right now he'd probably be the front runner for the Art Ross, the front runner for the Hart. Maybe the Ted Lindsay, we'll see. And definitely the Maurice Richard trophy. And, his new contract kicks in next year at $14 million. And he's a center. Rantanen to get $14 million. I've never thought that really made a lot of financial sense, but maybe a team will pay it that because that's what they have to pay to get him.
Well, yeah. And you're dealing with market conditions now, right? And you're dealing with now we know what the cap number is. When Draisaitl signed, we didn't know what it was. Right? We had a guess.
Yeah, you had a guess. Yeah.
But that's what the Canes are competing with now. The Band-Aid has been ripped off. He's out of Colorado. He's out of the familiar confines. What are you going to give him he's this close to forego going to market? That's the question.
100%. So, and I wonder, Does
I
waiting
wonder the
benefit
crazy
them?
thing, which is if he makes it to market,
Does he go back to Colorado?
yeah.
Yeah, that would be wild. Well, and speaking of big name free agents,
I doubt it, because I'm sure after the trade that, look,
yeah, it doesn't
he
happen.
was stunned by it. The team felt like they needed to make the move, and obviously did it preemptively. I don't know that creates any warm and fuzzies to go back, but man, both player and team look a lot different since the trade, and to be expected, but really interesting.
What do you make of Mitch Marner? He's having a great year. He's on pace. Of course, he's 5th in league scoring right now. He's on pace to top 100 points for the first time in his career, although he did have 99. Is there any movement on that front, on him re-signing in Toronto in your eyes?
To my knowledge, there has not been any substantive conversation between Marner and the Leafs. I don't know that his side has wanted to engage, and I don't know that the Leafs are pushing the envelope right now. I think they're perfectly happy to have him continue to play at his best without any distractions, and let's see where this goes.
Yeah, there's no major rush to do it now. To be honest, like whether you wait until the end of the season, you're the only team that can talk to him until July 1st. So,
but to do it now, I think would defeat the entire purpose of going through this exercise.
Yeah, because you want to wait and see what he does in the postseason, correct?
Yeah, we know what Mitch Marner is. Like, okay, so he's on track for, you said 100 points for the first time in his career.
Yeah, like I think he's 110 or something like that.
Yeah, so he's exactly 110. And his previous career high was 99. He also hit 97. He's not on track for a career high in goals. I'm not knocking down his candidacy. All I'm saying is we're learning nothing new about Mitch Marner. Great player, has been a great player for a while now. What we do need to learn something new about, even if it's the same old story, is this Leaf team different when it gets to the postseason? Their defense is constructed differently. They seem to play with a style that would indicate that more playoff success is possible. Their goaltending is better than it's been. But all those things all entered into the equation. We don't know what's different yet. And if it's the same, I just don't know how you could, even with the cap increasing, dig into that well again and say, we're just going to keep the same core of players together that continue to create the same issues on the salary cap that continue to hinder us from building a more complete team. It's not to single him out. In the end, maybe the calculation is, hey, they should have let Nylander walk instead of Marner or whoever it might be. But to get the same results again, I can't imagine wanting to then keep him. I don't know how you could do it. And it's not to single him out. It's just that he's the most readily available given that his market status.
It's true. To lose him for nothing would be, I'm not sure that's great. You know, I get you have new cap space, but there's not a lot of guys, unless you think Mikko Rantanen comes to market, then there's the legit conversation to say, hey, we'll sign Rantanen instead of Marner. You know, I could see that argument as one, but otherwise you're downgrading the skill of your team. Yes, you have more cap to spread around, but for individual play, you're downgrading your team. And that's, I think, I think it's fair to say that, the whole team is
like, that's the question though. Are you individual play? That's not what a team is. What if you can get, instead of paying Mitch Marner, he makes 11, call it 12. Can you get 3 good players at $4 million a year? Can you get 2 good players at $6 million a year?
Potentially.
Is your team better? Can you get a $9 million player and a $3 million player? Is your team better spreading the wealth around? That's the question. It's not an individual question. It's team.
Yeah, it is a fair question. It's one that, I think in the NHL it's proven. There's outliers, but for the most part, you need a superstar, if not 2 or 3, to win a cup.
But they've got that already.
Well, they would have Matthews.
Do you need another one?
2, right? They would have 2 in Nylander and Matthews, but that's it. Right?
Okay, but is that not enough? You just said 2 or 3.
Sometimes more, but like, if you look at cup winning teams, you could argue you maybe even need 4, right? Like you look at who Tampa had when they won. Like even if you look at Barkov and Tkachuk and Bobrovsky, right? Like, Sergei Bobrovsky's probably when his career is over is going to be in the conversation for Hall of Famer. Right?
He is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Multi-time Vezina winner, cup winner.
So there's 3, right? Yeah. And the other thing is the one argument would be that having all forwards would be the question, and that's valid. Right, that you have 3, but they're all forward.
It's not just that though. Here's the difference between the Leafs the Leafs or the Avs or the Panthers or the Lightning or any of these teams that have all won. The common thread with their superstars is not the number of them. It's the contractual status of those players when they won. Nathan McKinnon was still on his bargain deal when they won.
Yeah.
And
none of the Panthers guys were.
Yeah, all the Panthers guys are south of 10 million, except for Bobrovsky.
Well, yeah, but Barkov and Tkachuk had just those are new contracts signed, right? Like Tkachuk got it on a better deal at 9.5.
But look at that compared to the Leafs numbers. Tavares, Matthews, all of them north of
Tavares one for sure, right? But
all of them and Marner, all well north of that.
Yeah.
The Lightning guys were all south of $10 million.
I think it's more the production that you got from your star players than the actual, because technically
but what I'm saying is it's like dealing with people who they bought their house 20 years ago or 10 years ago in different market conditions. These guys on the cup winning teams with superstars bought their players earlier under different market conditions. And now the Leafs, because a lot of their deals have been short term, they're constantly under the newest market conditions, which is not beneficial to the team.
Yeah, to a point. Right. Matthews obviously has been shorter term, right? Nylander's now he's on a long-term deal. Tavares signed the longest deal he could as a free agent at that point.
But Marner,
yeah. But Marner, whether he had signed for 8 years or whatever, he wouldn't be them losing his contract would be the same the whole time, right? He would just not be a free agent this summer. He'd be a free agent next summer. That's not why. Right?
Can I ask you an interesting contract question?
Yeah.
That I've been thinking about for a while. We talk about Rantanen and we talk about Marner and whoever else. He's not in the exact same scenario because there's one additional year left. But the Winnipeg Jets have to pay Kyle Connor this summer, or could, or should.
Oh, he's going to get a big raise.
He's already has 30 goals in 55 games this season. He's going to hit 50 for the first time, or should. What do you pay Kyle Connor?
It's a good question. He's making what, 7.1? Is that what it is? Something like that?
7.142.
Yeah. So I look at Kyle Connor, and he's pretty much been a model of consistency as far as a goal scorer, right? Like he's had a career high of 47, and he's just right around there again. But he's basically being a guy who you can mark it down. This guy's scoring you 30 goals, right? Pretty much ever since he's been in the league. He's had I think it's 1 80-point season. So good player, but I guess in the new cap world, you can make an argument that, okay, yeah, he's maybe can get 10, but Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, when
maybe he can get 10, dude. I'm telling you right now, he's starting figure in new cap world. He's at Pasternak's deal, 11.25.
God, yeah. See, that's such a big jump that I just don't like. Pasternak got 11.25, and I know that in a
different market condition.
Yeah, and it's funny because I talk to agents about that, and they say, hey, we like to use the percentage of cap when the cap goes up, but when the flat cap, we don't want to use it, right? So that's just a negotiation to see what the other team's willing to do. Kyle Connor's a really good player, but if we look at terms of great or elite, he's not in that category. Right? 180 points.
You don't think Kyle Connor is elite? 50 goal scorer.
Never 50, 47 once.
Okay, he's on track for 50.
Is he? He's got 30 and 55. What's that?
40. Okay, 45. Sorry.
Yeah.
He was on track for 50.
Yeah. So to me, like, 45, those are the high end. Great. That's awesome. But it's also point production. And
you're drawing the line. I just want to be clear for everyone listening. You're drawing the line and saying Kyle Connor, not elite.
No, not for me, but I don't like to throw around the term. I think elite are like, there might be 10 elite guys, like truly elite. Then everybody's really good or great, but elite's different.
But I'm just talking about really what we're talking about is one thing. He's not an elite goal scorer. Because that's really the only distinction we're trying to make. If you're going to draw the line at, there's only 10 elite players in the entire league, like, okay, yeah, Kyle Connor doesn't fit in that 10 elite players in the entire league. If we're talking elite goal scorers, Kyle Connor is most certainly in the top 10. 100%, no doubt about it.
Yeah, you'd be right. You'd be close for sure.
Close. How many other people are you taking ahead of him?
Well, I'm taking Matthews, McDavid, Draisaitl, Ovechkin, Pasternak, McKinnon, Braden Point. Those guys for sure. Who else would be?
Kyle Connor's outscored Braden Point the last 3 years.
In goals?
Has he not?
Well, in their careers, Braden Point has 274 and Kyle Connor has 271.
Okay.
Right. And that's actually Point, that's not in the, that's since they came in the league. Right. So yeah, I guess he'd be around, like he'd be hovering. There's, Rantanen's in that category with him. Right.
Gensel, who you said is not elite.
Yeah.
He's behind Reinhardt. I don't know.
He'd be close, but even if we go the goal scorers for one specific one, like he's not in the Pasternak, Draisaitl, Matthews, McKinnon, like the real true top end guys, right? That's all, which is okay. It's not a knock on him, but for me, Kyle Connor, even in the new salary cap world, I'd probably say he's a $10 million player, because if I just look at what Tkachuk and Gaudreau signed a few years ago, and those guys, arguably, if they'd been more productive players in their careers up to that point, they'd been 100-point guys. He's only ever been an 80-point player.
The key word is a few years ago. These were like pandemic deals.
Well, 2 years ago, right, was Gaudreau?
Matthew Tkachuk is in the third year of his deal. Next year, he'll be halfway through it.
No, I'll just say 10 for me. Like, I like Kyle Connor,
and you're dealing with Florida. Like, you're picking out like the outlier of outliers.
Well, no, Johnny Gaudreau is 9.5, right? And he went to Columbus. That's not a tax-free state. No, and again, the tax-free thing is we're talking 13% tax. I don't go.
Johnny Gaudreau's market collapsed on the day that he signed. So a little bit of a different scenario. This is how he ended up in Columbus.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right about his contract. He's going to get a big raise, but I don't think it's going to be crazy. I could be wrong, but I don't think it'll be crazy.
I'm just also looking at the big picture for the Jets, and I'm going, you can't afford to lose him, is one. And two, next season, the Winnipeg Jets have $43 million in cap space.
Oh, they got lots. Well, they found remember last summer, Frank, most people thought, Hellebuck and Scheifele, geez, and they signed both of them. So, I know I saw that report that just came out, and Winnipeg's on top of the thing, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. But the guys who are there, lots of them love it. Right. And it's like anything, you get comfortable in your situation, and you like the organization. And if your family likes the city, then it's great. I never really put too much stock in outsiders who haven't played in a spot and their opinion.
I love Winnipeg. I'm not being funny. I do. Every time I go there, I enjoy it. I find the people to be some of the friendliest in the league.
Yes.
And yeah, is it cold? Yeah. Does it snow? Is travel a bear? Sure. All those things are true, but you also get great support, and it's an inexpensive place to live, and people really care about what you do there.
Oh God. Yeah. Hockey matters. So if you want to be in a place where hockey is number one, number two, number three, although the Bombers are really good, so maybe not all three, but I think that's where you want to play. And it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But some great markets in the States, if we're talking temperature wise, like right now, is Anaheim the place everybody wants to play? No, because the team's not good. So Edmonton used to be.
Mike Greer made his point so well the other day. I don't know if you heard this, but he said he's not as concerned about the no state tax disparity. For one, I mean, we all know that if you have a good accountant, you can level the playing field. But two, he said when he was playing in his career, players didn't want to go to Florida, not because of the tax, but because the teams weren't any good.
Bingo. Been saying this for years. Yes.
You want to go where the team's good. They don't. In 10 years ago, we didn't hear anything about the tax difference because
13%.
The LA Kings were one of the best teams in the league and winning 2 Stanley Cups. And the Chicago Blackhawks were one of the best teams in the league winning 3 Stanley Cups. And the New York Rangers were going to the Stanley Cup final. That's where you want to play, is in markets where it matters and where your team has a chance to win, not necessarily for a few percentage points that are going to change on your deal based on tax.
100%.
And Matthew Tkachuk signed in Florida because the team was good.
Yeah.
Not because he got a tax advantage.
Yes. I've said it all the time. And it's no different. Edmonton used to be on the list because Edmonton sucked. They were the decade of darkness. Like, why would you want to go to a team that had no chance to win? I get it. And guess what?
The Athletic just did a player poll this week, anonymous player poll. Edmonton didn't appear on anyone's list of no trades.
Yeah. Right. They got a brand new facility. It's like, I talk to players who come in and they rave about the facility. So that's one, because that's where you spend the majority of your time anyway. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, well, plus you're with 2 of the best players in the league. So you got a chance to win every year. And you're going to have a chance to win every year for the next 9 years.
It's the same reason why if Calgary gets good, people they're going to have a new arena, great place to live. Like, it's all of a sudden that's going to rocket up everyone's list.
No different than Ottawa, right? They get that new rink down. I know it's 5-6 years away, but ever since Andlauer comes in, guess what? They don't cheap out now. The things that they've changed aren't necessarily seen on the ice. It's all off of the ice, right? And all the stuff that Staios and them are doing. So you make your market appealing, and players will pay. There is a few percentage. There's some, American-born players who don't want to play in Canada. That's fine. That's their right. I don't have a problem with it. Right. And there's some Europeans or Canadians who maybe don't want to play in a certain American market. That's fine. But it's not the majority. And a lot of people, I hate to say it, Frank, are at times sheep, and they just repeat what the masses say. Even if it's grossly incorrect, they'll still repeat it. We see it all the time. And so someone's like, well, geez, I don't really have an answer.
I see it with my own reporting.
Yeah.
I say something and then all of a sudden it gets parroted. Or someone else says something, even if it's not true, it gets parroted.
Yes. So people, I think, geez, I don't really know, but I guess I'll answer the question on the poll. And I heard Winnipeg isn't good, so I'll just say it. And they don't really have any insight into why. They just say it. So Winnipeggers, I feel for you, but I think your city's great. Every time I've been there, I love it, man.
Yeah. So I just did the Jets show the other day with Sarah Orlesky and Jamie Thomas, and they both pointed out, they were like, hey, you haven't been here in a while. And I said, well, Jets got to play some more playoff games. Can't be one and done.
That's true. Well, that's their,
I'm looking forward to getting back there. I do. I spent a lot of time there. 2018 run, other years, you go where the good hockey is.
And look at the Jets. They're kind of running away with the Central Division all of a sudden.
It's crazy, the gap that they've built in the standings, and no one is really talking about them. And by the way, they've yet to make their deadline move.
Well, that's the question, is what are they doing? They need a second line center.
They do, but be real curious to see where they draw that line of who fits that mold. It was interesting how they kind of, at one point were like, oh man, do we really need one? That was the narrative, right? It was like, hey, we're talking about second line center over and over and over again. And then they said, oh, well, we slid Adam Lowry up there. Maybe he can fit the mold. No, on a good, true contending team, Adam Lowry is one of the best 3Cs in the league. Him, Jordan Stahl, pick a guy. Yes. It's up for debate. But that is a well-positioned team. Vlad Nemestikov, not cutting it. Good player and has been a good fit, and actually has been a really good deadline ad for them because they kept him and fit like a glove. Yeah,
but I agree. Like, put players in positions to succeed. I think you're asking him maybe to do what he's not capable of. And that's, it's not his fault. Doesn't make him a bad player, but he's still a really good contributor to your team. And I think if the Jets find a top 6 center, and then I think they have
get another defenseman as well.
Well, yes. And then the other thing
I'd
for
love
Winnipeg,
to see them get so we did these mock trade proposals on Daily Faceoff Live yesterday with Tyler, where fans just send in like a who says no kind of deal. And one deal had the Jets getting Jamie Alexiak from Seattle. And I was like, ooh, that would be a good fit.
Oh, yeah. Right. Like, I'm kind of curious what Seattle does because they've got some guys who other teams I think would like for sure. And Alexiak would be one of them. We know that size matters in the playoffs on defense lately more than ever. And, he would be a fascinating ad for them because you're right. They could use that. I think a little bit more punch size-wise on their back end would help in a second-line center. But the thing is, Frank, we talked earlier about how much cap space they have heading into next season. Like, they've got room to add guys with term.
Yeah, the tough part for them hasn't been acquiring players. It's been keeping them. You add Monahan, Toffoli, a bunch of guys last year. A bunch of years in a row, they add players that they don't necessarily keep. And that's the tough part, is getting players to commit to stay for a lot of the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah.
It isn't for everyone.
No. And winning matters though, too, right? Like the Jets to a lower level because they went to a conference final recently. I think, you look at their last 2 years and especially, last year just getting, steamrolled. I think there's a little bit of internal pressure on them to say, okay, we gotta show we're better than this. We might not make it to the cup final, but we're not a team that gets absolutely rolled in 5 games. Because if you look at Hellebuck's numbers prior to that, and then afterwards, those 5 games are such a massive outlier, but came at obviously the worst possible time for him and the team. And, they got to get through that. And I think if they do, watch out for Winnipeg because very quietly, they put together a really good season. Probably the least talked about top team in the league.
I think because there's a little bit of an element to this team that isn't all that different than the Leafs. They've had really good seasons and they've been a lowercase version of the Leafs. They haven't really done anything in the playoffs since 2018. A lot of the same core pieces. Hellebuck was there, younger, obviously, but Scheifele and a lot of that core was still there. And they haven't, Josh Morrissey, they haven't won in the playoffs. Oh, yeah, I think that's where some fatigue came in from the fan base too.
There's always pressure, right? Like there's multiple teams that, you if you don't even win one round, because the last time the Jets won a round was what? I think against the Oilers in 21, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then they lost. And then they got swept by the Habs of all teams in the second round, right? So I think it's kind of what's disappointing is the last 3 series losses, Vegas, Colorado, and even the Montreal one.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs in 22. Then they lost in the first round 2 years in a row, and then it's this year. Yeah. But it was conference final, then first round, qualifying round, second round, missed playoffs, first round.
Yeah. So
that's not going to cut it.
No. So they got some pressure there for sure, but they look good, and we'll see. Let's bring in Tyler Yaremchuk now for the segment. That was my dog yelping. Sorry about that.
What'd you do?
Take that. Buy or sell.
Petting her.
Buy or sell brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Let me quickly get to a piece of news from last night. Marcus Pettersson signs a 6-year, $5.5 million extension. Frank, I'll let you go first. You buying or selling on that extension? Very simple question.
I am selling.
Ooh.
I think 1 year too long. The AAV is fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, definitely not an egregious contract. Gets a raise off of the 4 point something he was making and gets some stability. And obviously the Canucks were highly motivated to get this deal done after just spending a premium asset to get him. I think it's a fine deal, but I think here's my premise has always been this. With that asset, the Vancouver Canucks could have done better. That's it. Period. End of story.
Yeah, I would agree. Term is always the one that I find bites teams more than the AAV, to be honest. And I think for the next few years of the deal, no problem. But I think near the end, you're kind of like, oof, not sure I love it.
Let me rewind you to Pittsburgh. Jim Rutherford signed Marcus Pettersson to a 5-year deal. That deal was not tradable for a while. And they weren't happy with Marcus Pettersson for a while and wanted to trade him. Beyond that, Marcus Pettersson has been available in trade for 2 years. He's been readily available to the Vancouver Canucks. If he was such a perfect fit, why didn't you go trade for him then? That's the big confusion that I have. You've known the player, you rave about the player now. Why didn't you get him in the summer as you were rebuilding your defense if he was such a perfect fit? So then let's take it another step further, which is to look at the term on this deal. Well, let's rewind. Had Marcus Pettersson had 2 or 3 years left on his deal, I guarantee you this, no one would be talking about Marcus Pettersson as a trade candidate. No one would be saying, hey, hurry up, get this guy from Pittsburgh. He's going to solve all your problems if he had 2 or 3 years left on his deal. We talk about him because he was an expiring player and because Pittsburgh's going nowhere and needs to make moves. Just the narrative changes around guys. That's all I'm saying. But Canucks fans think that I hate them, so I don't know why that's the case. But I mean, at every point, not tooting my horn, I feel like I've nailed the exact state of the Canucks. 2 seasons ago, the only guy out here in the preseason saying this Vancouver Canucks team, firm playoff team, good team. This season, I get crushed when I say in the preseason, this Canucks team, not as good. Not going to have as good of a year. So, why are you such a hater? And then just look at the talent evaluation. Look at what they've done to their defense core. They're cleaning up the mess now. And now you want to make Carson Soucy available too on top of it? So you finally get 5 bona fide NHL defensemen with Soucy, Myers, Pettersson, Hronek, and Hughes after trying to shoehorn in Forbort and Desharnais and Noah Juleson. Poor talent evaluation is what we saw. And they're in the process of cleaning up the mess. Carson Soucy's had a tough season, really manageable contract. Great playoff player for you last year. Why inject more chaos and try and move him? Let him try and find his game and level it out.
It's team drama right now. There is no organization that has more of it than the Vancouver Canucks. It's crazy. They get rid of Miller, and what was it? I don't even know how long it was. And then all of a sudden,
Monday, they trade Miller on Friday, and Monday they're sending out a memo to all 31 other teams letting them know that Carson Soucy is available. Monday.
Yeah, dude, it's never ending. It's a never ending circus of drama.
But then they're going to say that it's the media's fault. It's our fault that the drama exists. As if you hitting send on that, you don't know that it's going to be public in an hour.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, it's the other teams who tell people that.
Yeah.
The media they don't get a note themselves saying, hey.
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't come to my inbox, but it does go to every GM in the league. And then we all engage in conversation. Hey, did you hear Carson Soucy's available?
No.
Oh.
Well, Canucks are in a dogfight all of a sudden, man. The Calgary Flames are not going away.
Dogfight? So. They're on the outside looking in, bud. Yeah. I don't think they're making it.
Wow. It's a dogfight because what are they tied in points? Are they not?
They've
been on the outside for the last 10 days.
Yeah.
But you were in Hawaii.
Oh, buddy, no. They both have 59 points, 53 games.
Okay. They have been been a few points back at Calgary.
All right. Next one I got for you guys is about a couple of players on Frank Seravalli's trade targets board. Mittelstadt and Byram traded a year ago at the deadline. They are both in Frank's top 5. Yes, top 5. Greg's buy or sell on both of them getting moved again before this deadline.
Yeah. And if I have Buffalo, you can talk about talent evaluation. You traded Bowler and Byram. I actually really like that trade for Buffalo because I like Byram better as a player. I think he's more competitive and consistent overall I don't know what's going on in Buffalo. Obviously, I saw the Tage Thompson non-reaction by everybody else. I thought that was pretty telling of where the organization is at right now. And I think
you ever see the movie Rudy?
Oh yeah.
You know how when Vince Vaughn is the quarterback and Ara Parseghian, the coach, he comes up to him and, toward the end, he's like, that one play. They're talking about practice. He's like, that summed up your whole sorry career. Well, in this case, that one sequence summed up the entire Sabres sorry team.
Yeah.
Don't give me, and I said this to Tyler yesterday on DFL, so there's no tune changing. I'm just repeating it for a different audience. Don't give me the embarrassing scrap off the opening faceoff of the next game. You don't get to make up for it. There's no like, hey, we're going to show you how tough we are. Props to Dennis Gilbert for dropping the gloves. But then you got wiped by Matthew Olivier.
Yeah.
It's not impressive to me to drop the gloves in a stage fight and get your face pounded in. It is.
And what is fighting Matthew Olivier, who's one of the top 5 heavyweights in the league, for goodness sakes? And then you got Steven Nosen, who had a really good season. But that guy is not somebody that intimidates you. Like, I could see if it was Reeves or Rempe or Olivier who ran around and crushed a guy. And other, geez, I don't want to get my face punched in. So, maybe I'll hesitate. But at least I could.
No, did you hear they said we're not really sure what happened. We weren't sure who did it. That's literally what they said. We weren't sure what happened. We didn't know what to do.
Like,
who cares? Grab someone. Like, I'm not advocating for
I am
insane
I'll have no
violence,
problem saying it.
But show that you have a pulse, for the love of God. It summed up their entire season in a 10-second span. And then the next part, we're gonna step up and fight. Please. You already made your statement.
So I'm gonna sell Ty. I don't think both of them will get traded. And I think Buffalo will regret if they trade Bowen Byram, because I don't think they're going to get good value in return.
Frank?
My initial instinct is to buy, but I think the execution for both is going to be a little bit difficult to make both happen. And I think the biggest thing that I'd be intrigued in is, what has Bowen Byram been after? Well, obviously he wants to be part of a winner, because everyone wants to be. So this year has not been fun. But when you look at what this Buffalo Sabres defense core looks like moving forward, what if they're trading Owen Power? What if your sell to Bowen Byram is, stay, we'll pay you, and you can be our top pair left shot D?
What are you trying to get in an Owen Power trade, though?
Another, you got to rejig your board. You got to get another difference maker up front. So answer me this question. Who drives play for the Buffalo Sabres?
Tage Thompson, and that's probably about it.
Does Tage Thompson have 25 to 30% of the schedule that he is not apparent in games?
He's streaky.
I'm sorry that you answered the question. That's not a driver. A driver is in there every single night. Hands on the wheel, foot on the pedal.
Not many of those guys, man. It's hard to find one. And if you get one, you definitely got to keep them. So,
but if you got an Owen Power, number 1 overall pick, signed to a long-term deal with cost certainty, has shown some decent offensive upside, plays 22 minutes a night, 22 years old. If you can't get one with him, you ain't getting one, period.
Yeah. Fair. All right. Last one I got for you guys. Let's go out west. I want to talk a little bit about the LA Kings, who kind of just faded into the mud a little bit here in the middle parts of the season. I'm going to say they will, and quite honestly, they have to acquire a high-end winger at the deadline. Frank, buy or sell on that?
I'll buy. I just don't know who it is. Like, if I'm looking at the board, who's the fit?
Yeah, I look at a guy, even maybe he doesn't even qualify as high end, but he's having a good year. Like Oliver Bjorkstrand, like they need someone who can score. Is my whole point. They're 20th in the league in offense. Like they're not going to win in the playoffs again. I know people talked about the system last year, but
Bjorkstrand, is that's it?
at least he has term. Was my thinking.
Dude, is he moving the needle for you?
25 goal guy every year, right? Yeah, maybe they do have to aim higher.
Not moving the needle for me.
So do you think the piece just maybe isn't
Trading for Oliver Bjorkstrand, and this isn't a shot at Oliver Bjorkstrand. Like I'm Bart Simpson bringing in the at least you tried cake. That's what I'm doing.
Fair. Greg's by herself. Kings out a winger.
Hey, we're gonna take down the Golden Knights or the Edmonton Oilers. Come on in, Oliver Bjorkstrand. That's what he's gonna be, the galvanizing force to put us over the top.
So if they're gonna,
Sorry, I'm belaboring it and not knocking your guy. I'm just saying it's a great lesson in general for the Kings. Like if you're gonna take the bat off your shoulder, do something meaningful, or you might as well keep your picks because you're not making it out of the first round.
So then do they swing on a guy like Cousins or Mittelstadt? Like
they don't need a center.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why I was going down your list, and I was like, well, they're good down the middle. Like they need the best winger on your list, and that is Bjorkstrand.
Here's the thing. If you look at the Kings, they're 6 points back of Vegas with 3 games in hand. Vegas can't score to save their life. They're 2-5-3 in their last 10. The Kings are actually better in their last 10 at 4-5-1. Either one of those, like right now, one of those teams, you'd be like, I'd rather play them. If you're Edmonton or if you're Winnipeg or you're Dallas, you'd be like, I'd rather play Vegas or LA at the rate they're going right now.
Yeah, but what they're competing for is home ice between the two of them, because neither one of them is catching the Oilers.
No, and I think they need a winger. To me, the big question is
they're also competing in the winger market against Vegas.
With Vegas, right? And Vegas has shown a willingness all the time to swing big, and they're not afraid. They'll make deals, but eventually the cupboard gets a little bare in what you can offer. The Kings do have, I think, more pieces if they're willing to move them. So that's where I give them the advantage. And I agree with you. They should look for a big swing, but the ones that were out there, imagine, I know it never would have happened because it's in the conference, but LA is the team that really could have used Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, and that's just kind of my point, is like they have a lot of good forwards, and it's not like Seattle. I don't want to go like that far with it where you're going like, oh God, it's painful, but like they need one more difference maker. They're basically scoring the same amount of goals as the Calgary Flames, and the conversation all year has been, wow, Dustin Wolf is carrying the Flames because they can't score. Anyways, that's a wrap on this week's edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by Bet365.
What do you make of the Golden Knights and their struggles? Like they got a boatload, and Bruce Cassidy, because it is something that I find, fans, media, even teams, like a goalie has a bad game or lets in a bad goal, and oh my God, Jay's rebound control is terrible, and you go on and on. Forwards can get so much longer leash. Well, he's got a shot on goal. I don't care. You're wide open in the slot. You got the whole upper net and you miss and you don't score consistently. And right now they got guys shooting blanks all over the place in Vegas. Bruce Cassidy finally even said, like, our offense got to wake up here. Do they have the guys you think that can wake up? Like Jack Eichel had a great start. Jack Eichel has disappeared into the abyss offensively. Can't score a goal to save his life. Like, how concerned are you about Vegas's offense? I think you muted yourself. I can't hear you.
FYI, Jack Eichel has 7 goals in his last 8 games. I don't know about.
Did he all of a sudden score? All right. Well, there you go.
Hey, welcome back there from Hawaii.
Yeah.
The Big Island.
Well, he had 3 and 25 prior to that.
Right? Sure. Yeah. Jack Eichel deserves zero criticism for this entire year. He's having a career year and has been the one constant for this Golden Knights team all year. The interesting thing about Vegas is that they really haven't, like, Carlson's hurt right now and Stone missed 14 games, but they haven't had their late season swoon of injuries yet, which happens seemingly every year. So, that part, it would be mildly concerning. The issue in Vegas is their depth scoring. That's what's dried up. Where are you going to, that was the reason why you bring in a guy like Brandon Saad for basically free 99. you just hope and pray, hey, could Saad get back to being the 26 goal guy he was last year?
Yeah, it didn't cost him anything, and so you hope.
And he does have 1 goal in 2 games.
Yeah, well, it's good. But that guy waits. And by the way, Eichel, you're right. Yeah, he's on it, but he's only got 18 goals in 53 games. Like, their goal scoring, like, if your top guy's got 18 goals, it's not great. And, so even though he has 7 in his last 8.
Stop. Come on.
But he still has only 11 and 33.
Hurdle has 20. Dorofeyev has 22. Like, Jack Eichel has 66 points in 53 games. He's never been a goal scorer. There was this misnomer that he is a goal scorer. He's only hit 30 twice in his career. Not a goal scorer.
Well, injuries are probably part of that, but he never plays.
He's not a goal scorer. He's on track for exactly his career norm in goals. But he's way above that in production in terms of making goals happen with assists.
Yeah.
He's going to smash his career high of 82 points.
I still look at Vegas, and they're like LA's offense, Vegas's offense.
He's on track for 102 points.
I think they're both inconsistent. Yeah, I'm just talking goal scoring. But you're right about, Mark Stone. Now, he did have his injury earlier in the year, so maybe his injury, hopefully for his sake, is in the rearview mirror for the season. But I think Vegas, Frank, as much as they need, I think they need more speed up front.
So do the Oilers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't argue that. I think Edmonton, I could make an argument.
Edmonton is a way slower team this year than they were last year.
Yeah. Well, I don't discount that. Edmonton, as good as they are right now, and as good as they've been basically since, November 1st, I could argue that their biggest need might be a speedy scoring winger.
I'm just wondering, can that be Evander Kane?
I think when Evander Kane
speedy, but
impactful. Kane's a decent skater, but he hasn't played all year. To me, Evander Kane's not going to play in the regular season, so he's going to come back. If he comes back, it'll be for the playoffs. And at that point, if I'm penciling him in my lineup, I'm penciling him to start as a bottom 6 winger. And if he achieves that, awesome. But I can't sit at the trade deadline and say, you know what? We're not going to add a top 6 winger because we think we have Evander Kane. I think it's way too much to ask.
But they already went out and tried to make these moves by adding Arvidsson and Skinner.
Yeah, they really haven't played Jeff Skinner in the top 6 for the outside of the first, I think it was 5-6 games. That's it.
He hasn't earned it.
Yeah. Well, Skinner actually.
And Arvidsson hasn't been good either.
No, Arvidsson, I'd argue that Arvidsson's been a bigger disappointment when you consider the amount of minutes he's played in the top. Like, Skinner has scored his 10th goal last night of the season. First time he played with Draisaitl, right? They had 2 points together in the third period. He assisted on Draisaitl's goal, scored his own. And I think they'll give Jeff Skinner a run, which I know isn't a long one, but I would think now, and I know there's only one game before the break, and then they've got 5 or 6 before the deadline. I think they'll give him a run there. But even then, right, he's not a speed demon, but not everybody has to be a burner. If he's producing, then whatever. But
what's the early return on Klingberg, though? Because then if you only have enough assets to make one move, which is a real possibility, either in cap space or assets.
Well, I think they have lots of cap space, right? They have all of Kane's LTIR money. So,
but I'm saying that's still likely only one trade, enough for one trade.
Yeah, I think they can. Ken Holland had no cap space the last few years. He still found ways to make deals, right? Brett Kulak one year, Adam Henrique another year, and stuff. So you can find ways to do it. I'm not sure there's a big. Like we just talked about LA, there's not necessarily, and Edmonton doesn't need like a massive difference maker because they got, 2 of the best, if not the 2 best offense players in the game. They just need a really good 20 to 25 goal scoring type of winger. That's what they need.
I'm just still not convinced that they don't need a second pair right shot defenseman.
Yeah, well, that's fair too.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you're going to have
is there one out there?
Which one?
Who's a second pair D-man that's available?
Got to go through my board.
Yeah. Well, I've went through your board many times. Good board, but I don't see do you see a second pair right defenseman? Right? Like there's really not many, right? Like, Keandre Miller, I know is on your board, but he's a left defenseman.
What about Connor Murphy?
Yeah, he's the one, right? He'd be the one. Yeah, potentially. Obviously, Bowman would know him, so that helps. But
what if you could get him at $2 million a year instead of $4 million?
Well, that was my question. If you can get a Jake McCabe deal,
that's
for Connor Murphy.
That's the interest.
100%. Yes, because Connor Murphy at $2 million, man, that's an unreal deal. So for sure, you would do that because then it's worth it just for depth more than anything else. Even
and
if
the
you
fact that he signed.
Yeah, he's got one more year, so you're not getting just a 1 year rental. You're getting a guy. You get him 2 years at $2 million. Yeah, like that Jake McCabe deal was an unreal deal for Toronto. So I would look at it in a similar vein. But there's not many though, right? Like, 2 months ago, people talked about Rasmus Anderson. Well, there's no chance. A, there's no chance he was ever getting traded to Edmonton. But B, there's no chance the Flames are trading him now. They're adding guys, and they're very competitive. So he's off. He would have been the biggest one out there for sure. But I don't like now that Rantanen's been dealt and Miller's been dealt, and even the Dallas trade, which I thought was a very good trade for the Dallas Stars. The trade pool is a lot more shallow right now. You're looking for, I think, good complementary pieces, Frank, and unless there's a surprise deal, I'm not sure you're going to have a difference maker at the deadline. Do you see one?
Oh, I think that's been the story of the deadline so far, as a lot of the difference makers already moved.
Yeah. So,
but the interesting part of the deadline is kind of none of the rentals have moved yet.
Well, and that leads me to a question, because they're on a heater and they put them right in the running. What do they do with Brock Nelson? The New York Islanders?
I was literally just reading some reporting from Chris Botta, who of course used to work for the New York Islanders. And he says that Brock Nelson's first choice is to sign long-term, loves the franchise, and believes in New York's potential to contend again. Brock feels very loyal to the Islanders while also understanding he will be in high demand if he becomes a UFA. We do understand he turns 34 at the start of next season, right?
Yeah, like long-term.
I don't get it. The Islanders are not competitive. They are not a contending team.
I agree with you.
And he turns 34. You have one moment in time to bring in meaningful assets for this team, for this franchise moving forward. Him and Palmieri, get as much as you possibly can and move on.
Totally agree.
Have to.
Yes.
Palmieri's basically the same age,
but
a little bit
the
younger.
question is, we agree. Do you think Lou Lamoriello sees it that way?
I think he's going to give. Look, what is Lou Lamoriello's famous line? By the way, Kyle Palmieri's older. He is already 34. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was 1 year younger. Lou Lamoriello's famous line is, if you have time, use it. Of course, he's going to see what the next month looks like in the standings, and it's not in his nature to sell. I just think I've said it every single time, and I will not be swayed. Not trading those two players is malfeasance. It just is.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Before we go, Frank, what do you make of the Red Wings, who are just rocketing up the standings? Best team in 2025 so far.
Yeah, the Dallas Stars are right behind them. By the way, the Winnipeg Jets have been pretty damn good too in 2025. I'm just not a believer in the Red Wings defense. They have a different looking defense. Can they make the playoffs? Sure. Can they do any damage? I don't see it, but I do think Todd McClellan has changed the feel and vibe in there. They need serious surgery on that blue line.
Well, the one thing, all of a sudden, Frank, the Red Wings can score, right? That's their big thing here. They are lighting the lamp regularly. And so you're basically, you can argue maybe outscoring your problems a little bit, but that's what they're doing right now. Like Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, the Brinkat, Marco Jasper, like they've got Patrick Kane. They've had lots of guys that have really produced here so far under the new head coach.
It's been fun to watch.
Oh no, they've been very exciting to watch. So it'll be good. Frankie, it was good to be back. Enjoy your weekend.
Don't lie.
And we will chat with you on Monday. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365. Oh, quickly, we got to get your prediction. Eagles, what's happening? First of all, what's the Super Bowl food of choice? And what is the score going to be? Because I know you're picking the Eagles to win.
I'm going to the Super Bowl on Sunday. I'm going to say Eagles win by 6.
Eagles by 6. Are you going with your dad again?
Going with my son. With
your son? Oof, geez, lucky. I like it. Well, when are you leaving to New Orleans? Saturday?
Yeah, he doesn't know, that's going to be the exciting part.
Oh God.
We're leaving Saturday morning.
Oof, buddy. Well, have fun there. So enjoy SB. Hopefully the Eagles win for your sake. It should be a hell of a game, honestly.
Be miserable if they don't.
Yeah, these are two good teams. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. So enjoy it. You can get in on the action at Bet365.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.